This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for joining us. Coming up, survivor of the Bondi terror attack, Rabbi Mendy Ulman, joins us in the studio to share his experience and his message.
There will be only peace and there will only be light. But the way to get there is by us doing it. It's not going to come from somewhere else. It's not going to come from the heavens. It's going to come from down here. We have to shine our lights.
I'm looking forward to bringing you that special interview. We'll also be joined by Ami Horowitz on the future of Iran, with protests likely to flare up again and what this means for the regime. Later in the show, the President of the United States shows off his accomplishments.
The book on accomplishments. And this is something, I'm glad my finger wasn't in that sucker. That could have done some damage, but you know what? I wouldn't have shown the pain. I would have gone back. What, did you hear that? That was nasty. But I would not have shown the pain. I would have acted like nothing happened as my finger fell off. That was a nasty. I think somebody did that. I think it was him. It was my man. How were you? You didn't do it. I know you did. I know you didn't. So.
And he does that while making everyone laugh. Plus, Zohran Mamdani goes on The View with the leftist hosts absolutely gushing over him.
Listen, if you can do what you say you can do, you will not only remake the city, but you may help remake the nation.
Yeah. We'll be speaking with CJ Pearson later in the show. And we'll cross to London for all the royal and entertainment news with Andrew Eborn as David Beckham speaks out over the dramatic fallout with his son Brooklyn.
They make mistakes. Children are allowed to make mistakes. That's how they learn.
We have a very special guest in the studio with us today, Rabbi Mendy Ulman. Rabbi Mendy Ulman is a survivor of the Bondi terror attack, and he joins us in the studio right now. Rabbi Mendy Ulman, thank you so much for your time. I understand you just got back from America, which I want to speak to you about. But first of all, how are you? I can't even imagine how difficult the last few weeks have been.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much, Gabriella, for having me. And it's been a turbulent month or so since December 14th. And I haven't had much time to really contemplate and reflect. It's been mainly work and being there for the community, being there for my family, my sister's family, and going to America, which we can talk about in a minute.
So tell us about America. So you went to New York, you also went to Washington, but tell us about New York. You also brought Ahmed Al-Ahmed with you.
Yes, so the way that this trip actually started was a phone call from Chabad HQ. Chabad is an international organization which our community at Chabad of Bondi is connected with. And we were asked to bring Ahmed to New York to first of all bring him to the gravesite of the Lubavitcher Rabbi, who sent my father back in 1981 to Sydney to open up a Chabad center, a place where people can come, connect to Judaism, and also to be there for the community that was coming, immigrants from Eastern Europe that wanted to make a new home here in Sydney. And we felt that it was the right thing to do, was to bring him to the Ohel, for a place where everyone from all walks of life, from presidents to prime ministers, celebrities, they come there, and it's a place of contemplation and reflection. And to bring Ahmed there and to essentially say thank you on behalf of Chabad, on behalf of the Jewish people at that such a holy site, we felt it was very, very appropriate. And we took that trip together, and we made our way to Washington,
And then you made your way to Washington, and so I believe you met with John Fetterman, Chuck Schumer, Mike Johnson. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so it was a very packed day. We only had a few hours to meet everyone in the Capitol. Everyone wanted to meet us. Rabbi Levi Shem Tov, who is the rabbi in D.C. and is connected with the White House and with Capitol Hill, he organized all the meetings. And myself, with my father and Ahmed and his team, we went literally to as many people as we could meet, and it was just an outpour of awe of seeing a rabbi and a Muslim who won a world of peace. And they were so happy that we were able to come to Washington to have these conversations because of the rise of anti-Semitism, and to show that there is a world where two individuals who you wouldn't see sitting side by side were sitting side by side looking for a better future. And like you said, we had joint sessions with senators like Senator Fetterman and Senator McCormick, who usually sits on two opposite parties. They came together in this unified stance against anti-Semitism and for a brighter future. And we met Chuck Schumer and the Speaker, Mike Johnson. He's a mensch. And we met the opposition leader, Hakeem Jeffries, and his team. Everyone came out and wanted to connect with us here with the Bondi community and with the general Australian community.
And it is fantastic to see so much support, and that is so powerful. Can you take us back to December 14? Of course, you were at the Hanukkah festival at Bondi. What was that experience like for you with your children?
Yeah. I haven't talked about this too much, but I'll just give you a brief backstory. I usually would run this event with my brother-in-law, my late brother-in-law, Rabbi Eli Schlanger. And this year, I took it on pretty much all myself with my associate, Label Lazarov, who was shot and is recovering now in RPA. And we took on the event together to organize it, to allow Rabbi Eli to be there to welcome guests and to do what he loves doing, which is doing mitzvot, putting on the tefillin, the special ritual prayer that we do with everyone that can come, and every male, and to speak to every female to give them Shabbat candles. That's what Eli always liked to do, just to be there, a kind person. And during that whole event, it was a beautiful event. I just remember the color was saturated. It was amazing. The kids, the bubbles, the balloons, the rock climbing, everything, the barbecue stand, the donuts, the ice cream. It was a really beautiful event, and we were very proud. And I remember standing with Ellie, at the back of the park, looking at everything, and we were both just like, this is all the hard work pays off. And then I first heard the gunshots. I was standing near the front by the entrance, and at first everyone, like a lot of people, felt like fireworks. You don't expect those noises, to hear those noises in Bondi. And it took a couple shots for me to realize that something bad is happening. And I first thought of my mind was, I had my oldest daughter was near me right before, a few minutes before. So I was looking for her, but then people were screaming to take cover. So I just went on the ground and started trying to move, see who I can help, what I can do. And I had her in mind. I also had my elderly grandmother, who's 90 years old, and she definitely was on her own and didn't have anyone really to support her. And so I stayed in the middle, just praying that everyone's okay. And as soon as I was able to get up, which felt like forever, straight away just went around looking at first you have to pinch yourself. And am I dreaming? Like what nightmare am I living? All that saturation, all that color is gone. And you see things that you don't expect to see, the chaos, the medics, the surf life-saving club. It was a massacre. And called my wife. She told me she's okay. My younger daughter's okay. My young son, who's just 3 months now, he was with her and they were fine. But my older daughter was still unaccounted for, and you think the worst. So I spent a long time trying to find her while seeing what I can help with, and saw my brother-in-law, and my father just came in as well, and witnessed the carnage as I was looking for my daughter. And eventually I got a message that someone had her. Took about 45 minutes, an hour, and then I was able to get to her and reunite with her, with the family. But there was, we were not prepared for what would happen. Like the news coming out and the devastation was it was very, very difficult.
And your brother-in-law, known as the Bondi Rabbi, Rabbi Eli Schlanger, was killed. So horrific. How's your family doing?
I'm surprised of how strong the family is, because Eli was really the glue of our family. He came in, I was 12 years old when he married my older sister, and I knew him as my older brother. And as soon as I was, I guess, old enough, I left school and went to rabbinic programs, and then he said, come back and work in the community. And he really groomed me, really tried to encourage me to get involved, and I worked side by side with him for many years. And the family, I mean, for me, I'm devastated, but I'm looking at my sister and his kids, my nieces and nephews, and I see a strength and I see a resilience that we can only be in awe of.
Well, I'm in awe of your community, the Jewish community, how resilient you all are. And I've really been seeing so many of you coming together at this time. What has that been like, really coming together since this horrific attack? That's the overwhelming support has been the silver lining in this, to see how many people want to reach out and hug and to share their love, the letters that we're receiving, the thousands of emails and DMs, and I heard a beautiful saying yesterday that the Jewish people, we're a very small people, but we're a very large family. And I really feel that now more than ever, that we really are a family of close siblings that want to just make sure that we're doing okay. And we have all of our extended family, the Australian community, and the world, the global world, which we got to see when we traveled to America. We see how many people are there for our community and for us, and it's been very, very special. Talk to us about tomorrow. There's going to be a special memorial.
Yes. So in the Jewish tradition, there's a memorial service which we call the Shloshim, first to 30 days after we bury our loved ones and the ones we have lost. So we've asked to partner with the New South Wales government and to do this amazing event. And there's going to be a full media coverage which everyone can tune into as well. And this is the way to respect every single soul that was lost, and to be able to rejuvenate a community that has been shattered, has been devastating, but to see the country rally behind our community has been the only answer that we could look for. And this is definitely an opportunity for the whole country to unite in oneness and with the Australian values, which is that we want light to win. We don't want anger, we don't want revenge, we just want light to win.
Are you confident that light will win? I mean, we keep seeing anti-Semitic attacks, and it's been so horrific. And as you say, it's been amazing to see so much support moving forward. Are you confident that that light will win?
I can only say what we learn in our studies, in our Jewish books, which is that one day there will be a final redemption. There will be a final time where there will be only peace and there will only be light. But the way to get there is by us doing it. It's not going to come from somewhere else. It's not going to come from the heavens. It's going to come from down here. We have to shine our lights. So the prophecy is there. There will be a final redemption. There will be a time where there will only be peace, but it's up to us to shine those lights. So in my mind, light will win.
Rabbi Mendy Ulman, we are so grateful for your time. Thank you so much for speaking with us on Power Hour.
Thank you so much for having me.
And join us tomorrow as Sky News Australia broadcasts the service honouring the victims of the Bondi terror attack. Light will win. It will be broadcast live and in full tomorrow at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Joining us now is filmmaker Ami Horowitz. Ami, Happy New Year. It's Wonderful to see you again. There is so much going on in the world. We have to start with Iran. Look, the protests that we saw erupting in late December, initially over economic grievances, and then that quickly turned into a mass movement demanding regime change. Peaceful protesters that want basic human rights and free speech were just killed by the thousands during an internet blackout. Let's just take a look at what's been unfolding in recent weeks. Now, the protests pose one of the most serious threats to the regime. Reports are at the moment that the protests have subsided, but it's expected that unrest is going to inevitably flare up again. What's your assessment of where to from here? Will we see Trump take action at some point? Will we see the regime collapse?
Look, I'm more hopeful than ever that the regime will collapse. I can't understate how phenomenal that would be, not just for the Iranian people, which of course it would be, but for the region and the world in general. You can't understate what kind of boon that would be for the world. Pre-regime, this was a country that worked with the state of Israel and the United States on military and intelligence issues. It was an ally, not just a neutral partner, right? And then, of course, it flipped to become one of the most damaging players on the world stage, right? Promoting terrorism around the world, killing U.S. soldiers, creating destabilization. They backed all of the enemies of the United States and of Israel and of the West. And I do believe the regime is on its last legs. I really do hope so. Although never understate the villainy of this regime to keep, and what it would do to keep power. It sacrificed upwards of 1 million of its own people in the Iran-Iraq war to keep its regime in place. Now you're seeing upwards of maybe 20,000 people being killed, and that number may end up, going much higher. So yeah, let's not forget all of that. In the last 25 years, there have been 6 uprisings against the regime, and the 20 years prior to that, the number was 0. So I do think we're at an inflection point. And I think that we, the United States and the West, may have a role to push them over. But what that role is so complicated and difficult. I wish I had an answer for you, Gabriella. I wish I could say, here's what we need to do. But we do have to be careful with rhetoric because the options are somewhat limited. Like we have, now, look, I know the president said, I'm not going to do anything now because they didn't kill the 800 protesters. But I'm not sure what the moral difference is between 800 protesters being hung who are in jail versus 10, 20,000 of them being slaughtered in the streets. I don't know if there's a moral difference. I don't know if that's the red line. But look, our country has a history of putting out red lines that end up being problems for those countries. It wasn't that long ago when George Bush, the first, said to the Iraqis, rise up and we'll have your back. And they did, and we didn't. And maybe 100,000 of them were murdered, slaughtered, mowed down by the Iraqi regime. And we all remember famously Obama had the red line of chemical weapons, and that red line passed. We did nothing, and that may have kept the regime in power for a longer period of time. These are all very difficult issues to grapple with. I don't envy the president being in this position. I think we need to be careful with the rhetoric. I think we need to do what we can to topple the regime. I don't have a problem with him saying regime change is on the table. I don't at all. And wanting that to happen. We don't have to shy away from that. But we don't have to, and that doesn't have to mean we have to have boots on the ground. I would not support having 100,000 U.S. troops there. I don't think that's a good idea. But yeah, it's a very tough spot, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, for sure, to have Iran flip to an ally as opposed to being one of the great adversaries of the West would be an unbelievable boon for the world.
Absolutely. We'll be watching it all very closely, and we'll be speaking to you regularly, Army. I have to talk to you about Venezuela. Venezuelan opposition leader said that Venezuela will be free and would not be here without the vision and courage of US President Donald Trump. This is, of course, after the US forces captured dictator Nicolas Maduro and his wife from Caracas, and they're now facing charges in New York. The Wall Street Journal is running a poll that suggests that US voters narrowly support Maduro's removal, but they don't want the US running Venezuela. What's your assessment of how Americans are feeling about this over there?
Yeah, and by the way, I can tell you because I represent that schism. Like, I also kind of feel like I'm glad that Maduro is out, but wasn't a big, look, I'm not a big, unlike Iran, we can't go to every single regime we don't like and throw them out, right? Otherwise, we'd be throwing out 75% of all regimes around the world, certainly in South America and Central America. Having said that, I'll tell you this, that the Venezuelan people will and are looking at Donald Trump as a hero. That there's no question about. I think they are thrilled that Maduro is gone. Look, I was in Venezuela for a couple of weeks where I shot a documentary a few years ago, and I saw firsthand what the people are going through, how difficult it is for them. Difficult actually isn't the right word. It's horrific. It is post-apocalyptic. I don't use that word lightly. That's not me being hyperbolic. It really is. The death and destruction you see across that country is unbelievable. The city looks normal. Caracas looks normal. You have skyrises and buildings and restaurants, but it is an eerie landscape. I was filming at one point when I hear pop, pop, pop. I looked around and there was a guy shot right in front of me and my crew as we're getting B-roll. And we turned the camera and started filming this. The guy's lying, dying in the street. People just walking by because it's happened so often. A cop walked up to him, took a look at him and walked away. It was crazy. I went to the barrios, the most dangerous parts of the city, to talk to people there. I was walking down the street with a guy in those barrios at night. And I was like, what are you doing out at night? He said, I'm looking for food, pigeon, cat, dog, whatever you can find. I mean, it was a horrific existence in Venezuela, and I think Trump has changed that. And I think in that way, I think he'll be looked upon as a hero by the Venezuelans. Although I did find it so interesting with Machado. Do you remember that first press conference when they asked him Machado what her role would be? He's like, I don't know. She has a role. I don't think she has support. Well, what do you think? He's so typical, right? Oh my, he's so predictable. She comes to the White House. I love you, Trump. Gives him the Nobel Peace Prize. He's like, I think there might be a role for Machado. I think she may have a role. It's so
Donald Trump, he is very unique. But as you say, look, he's certainly a hero in the eyes of many Venezuelans. So many people celebrating after what happened with Maduro, absolutely. Army, there's so much going on in the world. We have to talk about Gaza. The White House announced that it was moving ahead with the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal, Donald Trump's 20-point plan for Gaza. Today, the president said that his board of peace might replace the UN, hinting, make of that what you will, saying that the UN has never lived up to its potential. Now, of course, this body of peace, or board of peace, I should say, is the body that is meant to oversee Gaza's post-war developments. Trump has invited 60 countries to join the board. Permanent membership will be available to those who pay $1 billion. What's your assessment, Army? Is it going to work?
First of all, I'm shocked. Shocked. It's not called Trump's Board of Peace, okay? But what are you going to do? Maybe you just forgot. Look, I think it's really interesting. Certainly, when it comes to in the charter, the idea ostensibly is to rebuild Gaza, but in the charter itself, it doesn't actually mention Gaza. So yes, that's why the speculation that it might be a replacement for the UN, which I think is great. I did an entire movie, a theatrical film on the UN, where I travel the world visiting the UN, interviewing officials of the UN, and I can tell you it's a piece of garbage, right? It has been for decades. So yeah, replacing the UN would be phenomenal, but replacing it with the same kind of people, I don't see what the point of that. That's the problem with the UN in general. That you're sitting with, the democracies are sitting with dictators, and that's why there's nothing that can be done there, right? So I think when his invitation includes people like Putin and Turkey and Qatar, those aren't very PC people. Those are not people rolling hard toward peace. I think that would create the same kind of problems we saw with the UN itself. So I'm not sure what that will do. But look, I think we need to look for alternatives. I do applaud him for looking outside the box for something else. And I think that Gaza is a good place to start. Look, let's see what can be done with the Gaza Strip. Let's see if it can be rebuilt in a way that is able to replace Hamas, put in another leadership that would not try to create and sow violence all across Israel. It's a good point to start. Let's see what happens, and then I'll come back on and comment.
Yeah, I absolutely applaud him for getting it to this point as well. A lot of challenges ahead, absolutely. Look, Army, as we know, protests have been taking place in the streets of Minnesota, marching against ICE. Over the weekend, protesters stormed a Sunday church service because they believed a pastor was connected to ICE. Ex-CNN host Don Lemon was there, and here is Donald Trump calling him a loser for taking part in it.
Mental institutions from where they came, that's all they want to do. They're patriots, and they have to be abused by guys like Don Lemon, who's a loser, lightweight. I saw him the way he walked in that church. It was terrible. I have such respect for that pastor. He was so calm. He was so nice. He was just accosted. What they did in that church was horrible yesterday. Look at it. 20.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with Donald Trump there. Army, you've been out at these protests. Can you talk to us about what you've been hearing? What are the protesters saying to you?
Yeah, first of all, really quick, I mean, Don Lemon is believe it or not, is a friend of mine. And while we agree on next to nothing, I mean, I saw the interview he gave about what he did there. And he said, it's freedom. I have the freedom of speech. Don, this is basic stuff. You can't walk onto private property and do what you want. That's not freedom of speech, bro. Take a look at the Constitution. You may have to reread it, my friend. Look, what's happening in Minneapolis is, and look, I was just there recently, as you just kind of alluded to. I shot a video, a really frightening video, where I was asking the people protesting, because of course you're hearing mostly peaceful, right? And I had a hidden camera. And I want to see what these guys were willing to do. And a hidden camera, I asked people, I'm raising money to murder ICE agents. I want to kill ICE agents. I want to raise money for weapons and bombs. I'm literally telling them I want to raise for guns and bombs to blow them up and to murder them. And, I was there. Now, there are places, by the way, where I don't have to go with security. Like when I shoot my videos in New York, I have no security. But if I go to Minneapolis, I always hire security. And they said, look, we're paying attention. They've recognized you. And I was there for 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, Gabriella, I raised nearly $200 that quickly to murder ICE agents.
No, you
Every
didn't.
single person I talked to was down with it, without exception. That's why I raised it so quickly. These are villainous people, okay? These are not people who are out there. Look, I also thought what happened to this woman was terrible, okay? I don't think she deserved to die. I think this guy acted improperly. Not illegally, mind you, but improperly. I don't like that the administration is not doing an investigation of this. I don't like that at all. I don't like the rhetoric when they said she was a domestic terrorist. She wasn't a domestic terrorist. She was doing something illegal. She should have been arrested, and she should not have been killed. Having said that, these people are not interested in this woman good. They're not interested. They have a larger agenda. They want to make sure that illegals are not put away and taken away and put back to their country. That's not what their agenda is. They want to have illegal immigration. They want to change the makeup of this country. They want these people to vote. They see this as a path to having a permanent majority, left-wing majority. That's what they're doing. And they are violent people. Again, I take security when I go to Minneapolis. It's simple. I was the BLM riots. I saw what they're capable of. They burn down the city. It's like the people of Portland and Seattle. They're in the same level. It's horrific and it's dangerous. And I applaud Trump for sending ICE in there, and I applaud Trump for wanting to clean this place up.
I can't believe it. $200 in the space of just 30 minutes. That is so concerning. And I don't know why I'm surprised, to be honest with you, as we've seen a lot of violence. Finally, Kamala Harris, it's been revealed by Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. Well, he has revealed in his memoir that Kamala Harris's vetting team asked whether he was an agent of the Israeli government. He's written about this in his new memoir. Can I get your reaction to this, Army?
Yeah, this is a really, even for somebody as jaded as you or I, this is really shocking. This falls into all these anti-Semitic tropes of due loyalty, right? That you're loyal more to the government of Israel than the U.S. government. Look, it could also confirm what we were saying, right, when she picked Waltz over Shapiro, that he was just too Jewy, right? That he was one of those bad Jews supported Israel. That's not what she was looking for. So this confirms all of that. It was gross. She was, not only was he asking, are you a double agent, right? That is such crazy language. She was also talking, they were really drilling down on why you went to the state of Israel in high school. Like a lot of Jews go to Israel to visit Israel, right? And she was really drilling down. What were you doing there? What were your purpose there? Like it was like scary stuff. And And then she also tried to get him to recant his condemnation of these uprisings on campuses, right? That he condemned. That I lauded him then, I laud him now. That he condemned those uprisings and those encampments on our college campuses, and good for him not backing off, knowing it may cost him the nomination. So yeah, but maybe the most disturbing thing, by the way, on this wasn't really covered by a lot of people, was he also admitted that he said that she was not looking for people to give her different viewpoints and then try to hash it out and come to the right one. They asked him specifically, will you support every one of her positions? He goes, well, I will ultimately go to where she decides to go, but I see my role as a VP as giving her input on what I think. We're not looking for that. And he was shocked by that. So that was one of the crazier things we saw. One of the most disturbing little data points he had that was kind of lost in this whole anti-Semitic thing.
Yeah, it says so much about her, doesn't it? And about
really
the Democrats. Ami Horowitz, thank you so much for joining us. Great to speak to you again.
Good to see you again.
It's time for Media Meltdowns, and Zohran Mamdani has appeared on The View, which was a total love fest. Whoopi Goldberg gushes over the New York City mayor, which we'll play for you in a moment. But here is Zohran Mamdani doubling down on his calls to abolish ICE.
I want to know where you come down on abolishing ICE and if you believe that ICE has any legitimate law enforcement role.
I am in support of abolishing ICE, and I'll tell you why. Because what we see is an entity that has no interest in fulfilling its stated reason to exist.
Yeah, it's federal law enforcement, and he also doesn't offer an alternative agency to enforce US immigration laws. Now, he was asked about some of the controversial appointments that he's made and some of the past statements from those people. One of them, for example, saying that home ownership was a weapon of white supremacy, and another person called to elect more communists. Here's Zohran Mamdani's response.
Some of your appointees have come under fire for past social media posts. This often happens when new administrations come in. Your new chief equity officer made several now deleted comments disparaging liberal white women. Your tenant advocate tweeted that home ownership was a weapon of white supremacy and called to elect more communists, among other posts. What message do you think this conveys to New Yorkers, and how would you push back on this?
So what I would say is that if you want to know my views or my opinions, you'll find them in my words as the mayor of New York City. And I am someone who's looking to make this a city that every New Yorker can afford.
He's so slippery. Didn't condemn those comments. He starts talking about his message, trying to make New York City more affordable. But we know his words. We know his past social media comments, and they're not great. And neither are his words right now, calling to abolish ICE. But Whoopi Goldberg, she cannot get enough of him. Just watch this as she claims that he's the person who will remake America.
It's really nice to have you here. You make sense.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, because it's important, And Joy has given you marching orders, and that's very important. Mm-hmm. But I just want to say, listen, if you can do what you say you can do, you will not only remake the city, but you may help remake the nation. Yeah. So.
Joining us now is CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair. CJ, it is great to see you again for your favourite segment, Media Meltdowns. Here I am making you watch The View and Zohran Mamdani. So I'm not sure which one's more painful. Can I get your take?
Absolutely insane. That love fest was incredibly hard to watch. But I think, Whoopi Goldberg, everything she said, and let me just say, God forbid, if he's able to remake this city, which I don't think he actually will be, because a lot of those policies and platform things that he ran on absolutely are impossible. She says that she hopes that he can remake this nation. I'm sorry, but every single thing that Zohran Mamdani ran on is the antithesis of what America ought to be and is supposed to be. We are a nation built upon the bedrock of hard work, rule of law. All of those things Zohran Mamdani detests. And that's not me speaking in conjecture. It's not me being opinionated. Those are the words that have come out of his mouth. And I think I've said this often on this program. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Well, the president has showed off his accomplishments today, marking the one-year point of his second term. And over the weekend, it was interesting to see a crowd of people just erupting, seeing Donald Trump during a game in Miami. Look at this.
At the twilight's last gleam, whose broad rise and bright stars.
Yeah, they won't show you that on CNN or the mainstream media, but you can just see the crowd there just cheering, roaring in support of Donald Trump. CJ, can you talk to us about what you're seeing on the ground? Despite what we hear in the mainstream media, is there still a lot of support around for the president, or has it shifted?
There definitely is a lot of support for President Trump here in this country because of his promises kept and the promises that he's delivered on every single day of this administration. It's been an incredible 365 days of his presidency with many, many more to come. In the contrast there, I think is also important to note. Joe Biden went to the sporting events. What happened? They would say F Joe Biden. And it was so embarrassing that they tried to gaslight the American people or all of the world into believing that they were saying, let's go Brandon. It's completely night and day between this president and that president. And it's well deserved. This is a president, again, as I said, delivering for the American people every single day. The American people know it. And that's why they give him a hero's welcome everywhere that he goes.
Let's go, Brandon. I haven't heard that in a while. Now, a new Wall Street Journal poll published this weekend shows that Americans believe that Republicans are best able to address most major issues. This is from immigration to the economy, rather than Democrats. The poll found that Americans believe the GOP is the better equipped party to handle border security by a 28-point margin, I should say, 48% to 20%. And Republicans had an 11-point advantage on immigration as well. What do you make of this poll?
I think the American people are absolutely spot on. While the left, concerns themselves with figuring out how to create more transgender children in America, Republicans concern themselves with how to create more jobs here in America. And also, we've been working overtime to secure our border, to bring down crime, and to actually right the wrongs of the previous administration. And the American people have reacted very positively to that work. The Republicans are the adults in the room. The Democrats don't even show up in the room because they're too busy in the streets trying to threaten the lives of ICE agents and burn America's cities down. And so I'm not surprised by those polling results, and I think that will actually be the very thing that propels to a better than expected performance for Republicans in the upcoming midterm elections.
It's interesting because while we have this poll, there's another one in CNN, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on the Democrat strategy for this year, because this new CNN poll suggests that the Democratic Party has a deeply motivated base, and it says an advantage on the ballot ahead of the midterms, despite, however, the dismal impressions of its current leaders in Congress. But the poll shows that Democratic voters are far more motivated than Republicans. Do you think that's true?
I think it's a wake-up call to Republicans. We can't rest on our laurels and just sit here and hope and expect that Republicans are going to keep the majority in Congress and do all that we can to expand a majority in the Senate. We have to do the work. We have to treat this midterm election just as if it's a presidential election, because President Trump may not be on the ballot himself, but his policies certainly are. If we lose this majority, he will be impeached. They will come at this presidency with everything that they've got, using the broad powers of Congress to do so. So we cannot let that happen. I understand, we're fresh off a win. We feel great. We are in the new golden era, but that will very quickly erode if we're not vigilant. So I hope it's a wake-up call, if anything. Even if you don't buy the numbers, use it as a wake-up call.
I want to get to some exciting JD Vance news in a moment, but quickly, I want to get your thoughts on Emmanuel Macron, the French president. He's appeared wearing sunglasses at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, and his office says it's due to a burst blood vessel in his right eye. He's getting trolled so badly for this on the internet. I mean, people are spreading rumours again that it could be his wife Bridget attacking him as that was captured last year. Here he is. He's wearing sunglasses while he's calling for the president to abolish tariffs on European countries.
We do believe that we need more growth, we need more stability in this world, but we do prefer respect to bullies, we do prefer science to plotism, and we do prefer rule of law to brutality.
CJ, I want your thoughts, not just on his message, but his new look.
This is a guy who can't even stand up to his wife, and now he's trying to talk tough on a stage in Davos to President Donald Trump. I don't think that's going to go over too well. But honestly, I feel a little bit bad for him. I think we should actually look into this and maybe get him like, I don't know, protective custody. I don't know really how that works. The Secret Service over there in France needs to do a little bit of a better job to protect him. But here's the deal. President Trump is not going to be bullied by anyone like Emmanuel Macron by any means. He's going to continue to do all that he can deliver for the American people. If that means, getting tough on some of our partners who need to pull their weight a little bit more, then he will do that. And no amount of bickering or temper tantrums on the international stage will dissuade him from doing that and delivering on the mandate that was given to him by the American people.
Now, before I let you go, Vice President JD Vance and Second Lady Usha Vance have announced that they are expecting their fourth child. The couple said that the baby is a boy, and the Vances shared a statement on social media saying that Usha and the baby are doing well, and we are all looking forward to welcoming him in late July. Very exciting news, CJ.
No, it's incredibly exciting news. This is actually the first vice president who will actually be welcoming a child, while they are currently serving in that office. And I think it speaks to the fact that there is a new generation of conservative leadership that is going to take the helm very, very soon in this nation. While, of course, you look over to the left, it's just a party of old white guys, which is ironic because they accuse us of being that. But I love this news from JD. This is child number 4. And I've always said that if we're actually going to beat the left, we got to outpopulate them. And so while they're aborting all of their babies, we'll create more of our own.
CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair, thank you so much for joining us once again. It's always great to speak with you.
Good to see you, my friend.
Joining us now is Andrew Eborn, UK barrister, broadcaster and president of Octopus TV. Andrew Eborn, it's wonderful to see you again.
It's always wonderful to see you, Gabriella.
And there is so much news to get into. We've got Prince Harry back in London. We've got all the Beckham family drama that we're going to get into as well. But first of all, the most popular royals have been revealed in a new poll, and the Prince and Princess of Wales are the most popular members of the royal family, with both Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and Meghan Markle plunging to all-time lows. No surprises there. What else can you tell us about the poll?
Well, royals rise and royals ruined reputations, isn't it? From palace peaks to popularity pits. This is the latest YouGov poll where, as you say, Prince William and Princess Catherine, they top the charts with 74 to 77% favourable views, which is solidifying their status as the monarch's golden jewel. Basically, King Charles is doing pretty well as well. He's got 60% approval, and Princess Anne, everybody's favourite royal, apart from obviously from William and Catherine, she shines at 70%. Queen Camilla, surprisingly, is down at 42%, which is the lowest figure she's had since March 2021. But Prince Harry and Meghan, the madness from Montecito, they've got this big backlash following all this negative publicity. Prince Harry's at 31%, and Meghan, she won't be pleased about this, it's at 19%. She'll be spitting those edible flowers in disgust. And that's an all-time low for her. There is only one person who ranks lower than Meghan. No surprise at all. The former Duke of York with his dirty dossier was basically being stripped of the king, as we know, of his remaining titles last year regarding the Epstein files and so on and so forth. He plummets to a shocking 3% positive rating. Who were those 3%? Who had a positive view of him? He is 3%. Crowned. Yeah, 3%. It's amazing. Who are these people? Anyway, former Prince Andrew has been crowned the king of controversy, and that's it. But William and Kate, they conquer the hearts, and Andrew's approval evaporates to that mere 3%.
And as you mentioned, Meghan Markle would not be happy with her ranking. Now, there's this 2016 Instagram trend at the moment, which I'm finding very painful. A lot of people posting images of themselves back in 2016. Meghan Markle has, of course, jumped on the bandwagon, posting about meeting Prince Harry. What can you tell us about her post?
Well, this was it, wasn't it? From Botswana bliss to barefoot boogie. That's what she had. It was the heartwarming history revived in this sort of viral vibe. It's basically, it's this 2026 is the new 2016, 10 years. Where did they go? What she had, she's released this black and white video of her and Harry dancing barefoot. It was in fact filmed by their daughter Lilibet, so it wasn't in 2016 at all. But they did do this Botswana throwback from their early dating days. This was the year, 2016, was the year that they met and fell in love. They got married, as you know, in 2018. Archie came along in 2019 and Lilibet in 2021. And they disappeared from the UK, the Mexit, in 2020 and moved to California. And that's what happens. It's Meghan's meme magic, if you like. She's dancing barefoot. It echoes the sort of 2016, the Sussex sparkle, they can call it. But Meghan's post proves past passions persist amid palace problems, is what I would say.
Now, we kind of alluded to there might be some PR problems for Meghan and Harry, and a sign that they are just desperate to try and improve their PR. It's been revealed that Harry and Meghan have reconnected with old PR representatives following the resignation of their most recent publicist. What more can you tell us?
Yes, the prince and princess plagued by publicist purge, isn't it? This is the 11th exit, can you believe, which has basically shook the Sussex squad. What happened is they've rehired the PR firm Sunshine Sachs. How lovely is that? After the 11th staff exit, publicist Meredith Main, she quit after after a year at Archewell. You might remember we spoke about it last year, the backlash at Kris Jenner's party photos. What they wanted to do, they were faced online criticism. They went to Jeff Bezos' £175 million mansion in Beverly Hills. They wanted all the images to be deleted because they were a bit upset that royals might be basically shun them during this reconciliation attempts. What's happened, they also had the executive director, James Holt, resigned. SSML, small, medium and large, I guess. And they also, you probably know, they're behind people like Hollywood heavyweights, Leonardo DiCaprio and Jimmy Fallon. And they're basically looking after their reputation now. Kelly Thompson Morgan, who's the president or co-president of the firm, she attended the 2018 wedding. She's going to be working in conjunction with the internal communication team in Europe, spearheaded by director Liam Maguire. They're trying to stabilise this image. It's basically from wedding guests to PR guardians. The firm fights Sussex firestorm amid family feud fears. They need to get their team right, and any more people leaving. The time when your PR people disappear and desert you, that's the time to worry.
Yeah, well, they've been worrying a few times now, haven't they? 11 times, in fact. Now, look, Prince Harry is in London. He appeared in a London court for his high-profile case against a British publisher. And Prince Harry, he jetted off from California to the UK. This was over the weekend, and this was ahead of the 9-week trial, which is taking place in the High Court. But importantly, no reunion with the family, it seems.
Yeah, well, that's right. Charles is up in Scotland, 400 miles away, but Harry, as you say, he flew in on Monday. He's got this case against Associated Newspapers, yet another legal case. He's accusing them of phone tapping and illegal information gathering during 1993 to 2011. Alongside him, his fellow litigants, who've got Sir Elton John, his husband, David Furnish. You've got campaigners, Baroness Doreen Lawrence, and politicians, Sir Simon Hughes, and also the actresses Sadie Frost and Liz Hurley. They're all taking this action against Associated Newspapers, and what they say is this allegations of unlawful information gathering. The trial's taking place before Mr. Justice Nickling at the Royal Courts of Justice, just up the road from me. Associated Newspapers, I should say, have denied any wrongdoing. They say the claims are preposterous and an affront to hard-working journalists whose reputations and integrity are wrongly traduced. Harry himself is due to give evidence this coming Thursday. I have sat in on previous hearings. As you know, my background's as a lawyer. I am a barrister and that sort of thing. And it is interesting. And it's basically, this has been a series of lawsuits. He won in 2023 against the Mirror Group newspaper, where the High Court ruled that he was a victim of widespread phone hacking. He settled in 2024 with the news group Publishers of the Sun, and Meghan Markle, basically, she won her case, a privacy and copyright case, you might remember, about the publication of her private letter to her father, and the publisher there paid damages and costs and issued an apology. So that's what happened. The interesting thing, Harry loves to be in court. He seems to be one of the most litigious royals in history, and he lost his High Court and Court of Appeal challenges in 24 and 25 to reinstate the taxpayer-funded armed police protection in the UK after he stepped back from a working royal. That's all being revisited, but he also sued the paper for defamation in 2024, where he was basically, the Mail on Sunday accused him in an article of misleading the public about offering to pay for his UK security. In the end, he didn't follow that through, that particular case, and he agreed to pay some of the publisher's costs.
And you mentioned there that Prince Harry won't be reuniting with his family, of course, with the King being away in Scotland. What can you talk to us, or can you talk to us a little bit more about his trip?
Well, yes. Well, the King's up in Scotland. He's sipping the whiskey up there. He's basically enjoying his life there, and I think it's the King's doing very, very well in terms of public and so on and so forth. So he was up there to fly the flag, and also, as I say, he met a number of people up there. He was a bit worried about the photo opportunity because he was warned that the whiskey is quite strong, so you've got to be careful there. And he said, well, it's not the problem with the photos is when you're sipping whiskey, they don't give very good photos. I guess he's a bit worried about when people eat food and so on and so forth. Politicians, there's some awful pictures out there when politicians have videos of various people eating bacon sandwiches and stuff like that. So he's a bit worried about his image, but they loved him up there and he was doing very well. And it's not a bad trip, is it? Putting the spirits up in Scotland.
Now, there's more fallout over Andrew Windsor. Now, there are reports that Princess Eugenie has cut off all ties with her father, and it's understood that Andrew will be leaving Royal Lodge before the end of January. Not long.
It's not long at all. I did predict it. I said he's going to Christmas, give him a last chance to stay in that royal lodge where he's been paying this peppercorn rent, as we explained last year. Princess Eugenie, she's had no contact with Andrew. She's furious, apparently, about his lack of apology and the whole Epstein scandal. She skipped Christmas visits, and she also wants to focus on her own thing, the Anti-Slavery Collective, which is basically countering sex trafficking and so on and so forth. Beatrice, however, she is maintaining her ties. She invited Andrew to the daughter Athena's christening just a little while ago, but apparently Andrew wasn't in attendance at the party afterwards. It's unclear whether Andrew and Eugenie spoke during the christening, but you might recall that Andrew and Prince William didn't speak at the Princess at the Duchess of Kent's funeral. They felt very, very uncomfortable there. A source tells me that Beatrice is trying to walk the fine line, if you like, of not cutting her father off, but remaining close to the royal family. It's a very tricky sort of situation. But Eugenie is not walking that line at all. She's just not speaking to him.
Well, another massive family drama. It certainly exploded this week. The Beckham drama. Of course, Brooklyn Beckham issuing a blistering statement accusing his parents of being controlling, saying that their behaviour has been controlling and it's caused problems in his relationship with his wife Nicola Peltz. He said that he was humiliated that his mother Victoria Beckham hijacked his first dance with his wife at his wedding. Now David Beckham has responded.
They make mistakes. Children are allowed to make mistakes. That's how they learn. So that's what I try to teach my kids. But you have to sometimes let them make those mistakes as well.
Andrew, what do you make of David's words there?
What do I make of it? The Beckham's battle. Beck's lies and videotapes, as the Sun screams today. It's basically, and what happened? This explosive Instagram rant that Brooklyn accused David and Victoria of controlling his life, sabotaging this marriage to Nicola Peltz via wedding interference, media lies, and excluding her. What happens? There was things like last-minute dress cancellations, pressure on naming rights, and past flames at the event. What happened? He attended David's 50th, but he basically has no love lost. And the sad thing, in the same way as Harry and his public spat with his family, the media side it's Shakespearean echoes, as we talk about that sort of slide. What the former photographer wrote, he said, "For my entire life, my parents have controlled narratives in the press about our family. The performative social media posts, family events, and inauthentic relationships have been a fixture of the life I was born into." Brooklyn, who's married to model and heiress Nicola Peltz, 31, got married in April 2022. He claims, as you say, "My parents have been trying endlessly to ruin my relationship since before my wedding, and it hasn't stopped." He claims that Victoria cancelled making Nicola's dress and hijacked the first dance at the wedding. Basically, he says the whole thing is he's been controlled by a family that values public promotion above all else. What he says about the dance was quite extraordinary. He says, in front of 500 wedding guests, Mark Antony called me to the stage where in the schedule was planned to be my romantic dance with my wife, but instead my mum was waiting to dance with me. She danced very inappropriately on me, extraordinary phrase, in front of everybody. What's that? What sort of imagery is that sort of conjuring up? It is quite awful. And he said that he was called evil because the nannies were put on his table and poor old, the other Beckhams, his mum and dad, were put on a separate table. And he basically says he doesn't want his life shaped by image, press or manipulation. All we want is peace, privacy and happiness. But as you say, Bex bit back, and David said that children make mistakes. That's what he did. He's at the World Economic Forum. He hasn't specifically addressed the statement other than to make that sort of stuff. But you can imagine this is going to run for days and days, and the press are bursting a blood vessel with the next exciting installment.
Absolutely. Andrew Eborn, president of Octopus TV. Wonderful to see you again. Thank you so much.
Always a joy, Gabriella. See you next week.
And that is Power Hour. Thank you for your company. We'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.